Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. So we are going to be talking tonight about a public informational meeting. The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Plainfield will hold a public informational meeting to discuss two items. One, the continuation of the cell tower lease, and two, the disposition of 651 Norwich Road building. Public informational meeting will be held on Thursday, January 8th at 7 p.m. at the Plainfield Town Hall, located at 8 Community Ave, dated at Plainfield, Connecticut, this 8th day of December 2025. Kevin Cunningham, First Selectman, Mike Supernat, Selectman, Tom Sinkowitz, Selectman. With that, what I'd like to be able to do is give a presentation, and I'll show you some information about each of the items. I'll also have an opportunity to hear from a couple of the groups who are interested in purchasing of the 651 Norwich Road. We'll have a presentation of the cell tower lease, which I have a PowerPoint for that, and we'll then give an opportunity for people from the community to ask questions about that PowerPoint presentation for the cell tower lease. We'll then go to the next step, which would be for the PowerPoint presentation where we stand currently with the Early Childhood Center building at 651 Norwich Road. I would then like to introduce two groups to you. One would be, and I'm going to always butcher names, I have multiple names. So, is it VJ? Yeah. When we get there, we'll have a presentation from VJ. Also, after that, we'll have Kruger Shaw will be here for a presentation for what they would both like to do with the building. And then we'll open up the floor for questions and comments. So with that, if you don't mind, I'll start off. And in the back of the room, if you're interested, there are some handouts and flyers for you if you're looking for information for each of these items. Presentation for PowerPoint presentation for each one of those are in the back on the table. What you have in front of you is, I'll go through each of that slideshow. So we have the cell tower as a lease agreement. Currently we have a 20-year lease for the cell tower. We own the land, they own the cell tower. The purpose of the presentation is to share the proposed amendment to the cell tower lease. Ask you both questions to the end. And the purpose is to work with our current company, which is Crown Castle. Crown Castle they're the current leasee under the cell tower. They work with government officials or with wireless carriers and designs to meet with the unique connectivity needs of the community, including first responders. I guess I was asked a question the other night about making sure that the access to that cell tower will continue, and it will. We have already got that in the contract, so the cell tower will have availability for the first responders, because we used to have things on there for using that tower for connectivity, so continue on with that as well. So the current lease, the way it stands right now, it is a 15% increase every 5 years, and the next increase would be scheduled for 2027, and that would make it 36/20/25. When I sat down with the Crown Castle, we were talking about modifying that, so we'll talk about that soon. We want to propose an increase that will give us a base rent of $4,000 per month, starting effective April 2027. That's going to be a 3% annual increase versus waiting every 5 years for 15. So what that does is it gives you some benefits. They're a unique partner with different groups, but we're not selling the property, we're leasing, and we're just making an adjustment to the lease for a continued 20 years. And here's what I was talking about with the numbers. Again, if you have that in your pack, you can see if you're doing the current lease, which is every 5 years increasing at 15%, if you take a look at the end number, you're looking at $999,817.02. What that does is it does give you more money, but you can do better by compounding annually. That's why we're looking at changing it to a 3%. So the column on the right is proposed lease, and you can see at the end of that, you're looking at numbers that are well close to 1.3. It's 1.289778. So the timeline is we're getting ready for the transition for the lease, And this is something that we wanted to talk about now with the public so that they know it's required by the town charter that a sale or lease requires us to have a vote by the town because it's in the section 25A, I think it is, off the top of my head. But it's in there. There is a section that talks about we have to vote and approve these leases for sale. So the timeline looks at April 2026, closing the current active lease, April 2027, looking at the lease being affected with a new increase of $4,000 annually, with the 3% increase starting immediately. So I know it's a brief discussion about it, but does anybody have any questions about what we're looking to do with the cell tower lease? I don't think it won't work. I guess the battery's dying. We also have a microphone up here if anybody else wanted to use it. So.
Central Village. Without breaking out a calculator, what year is the break-even point? I can see in 20 years we're going to make more money.
Can you give an example of what you're talking about with break-even point?
We make money.
We're always making money. Is there?
Year-over-year.
Yep.
I think you just need closer.
So,
every year we.
Proposing the change in the lease or is it Crown?
I actually reached out to them because it was coming up for the end of the cycle.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to stay there.
Jeff Alvance, Worcester, Connecticut. I would just like to see if it's possible to, in the lease, to add the wording to allow the emergency services a spot on the tower as well as ground space. It's very common practice. We were under the understanding when this tower was constructed that was a clause in there. In 2020, the fire department built a multi-site system, and we went there and it wasn't. And we weren't able to get on the site, but it is still a site that we would like to do. Because it does allow us good coverage on 395, Central Square condos, and some other spots. So if we could, like I said, it's very common to add that wording in there for the emergency services.
I saw a copy of the contract. I spoke to the gentleman today. He says it's in there, but it's so vague that I would like to work with you on that wording.
Absolutely.
And he said he would have no problem with that.
Great, yeah, they normally don't, like I said, but we went through Crown Castle and they gave us their normal prices and
right.
The budget buster for
the
monthly cost. So, thank you.
All right. If you want to meet with me sometime, we can talk about what the wording should be.
Great.
Great questions so far. Anybody else? One in the back.
Do we know what cell phone carriers are on that tower?
No, we don't. The carriers are always contracted with Crown Castle, so they have the right to put which ones they want on there right now. We haven't said that, so we'll be going through Crown Castle.
Crown Castle doesn't release the news of the...
No, but if you want me to, I can ask them for a list.
Okay.
Just a quick question. So if the emergency services are added, is that going to affect the lease arrangement?
Nope.
Okay, great.
Anybody else? So at the end of all of, we have one more back there.
Mary Landry Lissa, my question is, if the first responders are on it, do they have to pay as well, or is that just part of being a public service?
So normally, and this comes from my position as a board director for our dispatch center, what the emergency services are on the hook for are the monthly occurrences, so electricity, and then like fiber connectivity to the site. The actual rental spot on the tower and ground space is provided free of charge.
Good.
But we still do have to provide the electricity and the connection. So
it's minimal to you, Josh?
yes, yeah, much more than probably I'm just shooting off, I tried to find the email. I wanna say it was like $4,000 a month is what they quoted us in 2020. So times that out over the life of a radio, it's just not. So we ended up moving a site to our firehouse on South Main Street. We just don't have the elevation that that site has. So it is really a very good site for us in town. And if we could have done that site originally, we wouldn't have had to do 2 others to cover that one section, so.
Okay, as long as it's cost effective for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? If you're still having questions later on, you think, hey, I should have asked a question, don't hesitate. Just make sure you give me a contact, call me up, or say, look, I have a question about something that wasn't brought up that night. That's not a problem. Jeff, you and I can sit down and go over some of the language to make sure we're good. What we'll be doing from this, by the way, is from these presentations tonight, the Board of Selectmen will have to designate some approval to bring both of these forward because they, again, through the charter, require you to go through the process of if you're doing a lease or a sale, to go to a town meeting. So we will go through that process. We have to set a date. That is probably going to be the hardest thing, if anything, to do because at this point, the railings that we have in the back, we're going to have to take out galvanized. We have to find a window we can work around that, and then we'll set our date from that. Whether it's here, whether it's at the rec center for an all-day vote for a town meeting, or we'll figure it out. But we'll definitely talk about that on Monday night. So I'm getting more word from the attorney on how we do that process. But we will have it so it's public. Just a matter of where and when. Okay. So what we'd like to do is, if you don't mind, give me a second or two. I'm going to crash out of here. And have an opportunity to talk about the former ECC building, what our options are, what the costs are, and what the next steps are. We will go through this, and again, if you can hold your questions to the end, I would appreciate it. So there is our much older picture of the building itself, and we are looking for your input. We do value the perspectives of the residents and need your input to guide this decision. Your participation will help ensure that we create a budget that reflects community priorities and fiscal responsibility. A little history of the former ECC building, built in 1913, served as an elementary school in Plainfield. I think it was one of the first. The elementary school closed. Discussion was brought forth for renovations and remodeling to make the Board of Ed space, kindergarten classrooms, and a family resource center usage in 92. That was in 92. 99, the town had sought to grant for completion of the needed renovations. The building underwent renovation to be converted into the Early Childhood Center and Board of Ed offices. 2023, assessment study was completed to confirm the needs for closure. The Board of Ed voted to close the school due to the rapid decline in enrollment for all of its educational buildings. All classes and offices moved to Shepherd Hill Elementary School. And as of 2025, the building still remains vacant. There is a cost for maintaining the vacant building. There are utilities, insurance, security costs for every year. We have a deferred maintenance, which we have yet to really get into, but that is going to increase over time. Major capital repairs required to remain usable. Now, when the study was done, this is the Bureau Veritas study that was done, and we talked about that before. There's links online into our town website. If you want to take a look at all the things we talked about in January of 2025 for a public information meeting on that, all that information is there. So if you go to the town website and hit the link for the search button in the top right-hand corner, you'll see that there, if you type in ECC, it'll bring all that information up to those meetings, or that meeting. When the assessment study was done, we were talking about 2023, the Board of Education had paid for the independent assessment study for all of their Board of Ed buildings. It was revealed that the direction of closing the ECC and returning it to the town of Plainfield was the best course of action. As the enrollment numbers highlighted, the need to reduce a cost to close at least one school. What you see here is a representation of a spreadsheet. Those are the costs for immediate need for repair. We have a estimated cost for HVAC because we have to upgrade the outdated system. There needs to be roof repair or replacement. That's probably low at this point because the study was done a few years ago. The boiler really needs to be replaced, totally replaced for all the hot water. We have a fire alarm and electrical system. Again, it needs to be replaced. The HVAC, there are some HVAC repairs, and I'll get to that right now. Some of the things that were highlighted in that report show the need for the immediate repair of those. We have not put those in the budget, but we plan to put all of this in the budget for the 5-year capital this coming year. So really, what are our options? What have other municipalities done with their buildings, their old school buildings? Well, if we want to keep the building, we have to pay for the capital upgrades, our roof, our HVAC, etc. That's $2.8 million just for the 1 year. We'll have to determine the use of the building. After the building's purpose is decided, the additional expenses will needed to make it operational. How much of this is that going to cost? You should have that page in your handouts. It's a little tough to see on the screen, so it's probably best if you're looking at the handout. So we're looking at the increase in the mill rate based on that one item, just keeping that building. So if we go through that just for a second, if you have a home that's market value of $250,000, it's going to cost approximately $340,000 in taxes for that one house because of the following items. You're talking about the immediate needs to expedite the upgrades of the $2.8 million. And the current budget as it is right now, a mill is 1.456. That equates to 1.94 of a mill increase, 1.94. There it shows you the market value of your house if it's $250, your assessed value is 70% is $175. And the current mill rate is 21.36. If you're adding that additional costs on, we are talking about a hypothetical mill rate to be 23.30. One of the reasons why we're talking about this tonight is very important because we have to have a determination of where we're going to go before our actual budget comes forward. So this is just this one item that does not include the budget. So what you were paying before for the annual taxes was $37.38. If this was to go forward and we have to do those 4 items alone, it's $4,077 for your taxes. That's why the increase of $339. So the possibilities. What do we do? We talked about this already with multiple people. Since there's no vault at the ECC building, the tax collector and town clerk would have to stay in the current town hall. The splitting of the functioning of the town offices can cause issues with residents having to travel between both buildings. The cost of adding the necessary vaults is very extensive. So using both buildings for town hall offices adds to the maintenance cost to the taxpayer. Each new office in the ECC would require renovations, such as water, electric, counters, build-outs for space. Making the ECC building into a town hall without spaces to hold meetings like we are tonight, in the ECC, many of the town meetings, boards, commissions, and meetings would need to be held in the current town hall. If the current town hall is turned over, let's say to recreation or recreation senior center, then those meetings would take precedence over recreational activities in the auditorium. That makes it very difficult for rec to operate. If the move occurs where the rec senior center relocates to the town hall, well, that would be depending upon what the public would like to do. What would that renovation cost be, and how would that current building be used, the current building that the rec is in? Well, we've already spent quite a bit of money for this building to be renovated. If you note around from along, we have an HVAC system in here now. We have an HVAC system in the office areas. We have an upgraded electric system outside that's built into this building. We have a new ramp in the front. We have a partial replacement of a roof already up there. We've put a lot of money into this building currently. So what is the future? So I'm just looking at this as what does a resident of the town of Plainfield have to do in order to get services at the town hall? Well, the current town hall will still be utilized because you can go to the new town hall, hypothetically, if you're using the ECC for a town hall. Would they then have to come down here for other services? And the answer would be yes. So it makes it difficult for people to be able to do business and have to go to multiple places. Once the building intent is and use is determined, the additional costs will be required to make it suitable for that purpose. So you're talking about professional services for planning and IT. You're talking about IT communications, upgrades for the networking systems, permits and compliance. We're talking about the records management systems. You have probably a lot of duplication in that area. You have moving and logistics, having to move everything up. Building and facilities, you have constant repairs on both buildings. We have also now paying for utilities and services. And there's a list that talks about the expenses that we have to consider. So there are professional services. You know, you're moving and planning. You have to really move everything around, but you have to plan all these projects when they happen. There's space planning, layout design, architectural engineering review, IT consulting, and the permits. Your moving and logistics talks about the professional movers, packing and unpacking boxes, material, furniture, disassembly, reassembly, after hours, weekend premiums, elevator, building fees, temporary storage. Talk about your furniture and equipment, where there could be new desks, chairs, file cabinets, conference and reception furniture, cubicles, workstations, shelving storage units, storage units, furniture modification, resizing it, disposable old furniture. The IT and telecommunications talks about the network cabling, server relocation, and their equipment, the phone system relocation, the Wi-Fi access points, printers, copiers, security systems, testing, downtime mitigation. The building and facilities, we're talking about, you know, the usual things you do for buildings and maintenance, but the painting, patching, carpeting upgrades or replacements, electrical upgrades, lighting installation, signage, locks and relocks and keys, ADA compliances, modifications to those. We're talking about utilities and services with the connects and reconnects for the internet installation, the alarm monitoring services, waste removal, cleaning services. For permits, inspections, and compliance, there is building occupancy, fire marshal permits, record management compliance, secure transport for sensitive confidential files. In the records and file management, we are talking about the labeling, secure system transport, temporary storage, file rooms, build-outs, optional digitalization and scanning. For communication and public facing, there is public notices, temporary signage, mail flyers to everybody, website upgrades, and staff communications. You also should have a contingency and soft costs in there as well, so we're talking about overtime, temporary staffing for backfill, productivity, downtime, lost time, contingency for the reserves, and inflation. Well, we do have choices, so what are the other choices? And how do other towns and municipalities work on this? There was a search done, thank you, Lisa, for this, because there were searches done for what other towns have done with their buildings. You see that Southington had the former Lincoln College, now it's Briarwood, and it talks a little bit about the time it happened, the cost, the price, what they're using it for, why it matters. They eliminated the municipal carrying costs. They returned a large institution to private ownership. In West Hartford, Elmwood neighborhood, the St. Bridge School in 2021 was a $3 million sale price, and the new use now is a community and cultural center. Requires significant capital investment, illustrates the cost trade-offs in keeping a school in public use. Manchester, Nathan Hale Elementary School in 2025, they sold theirs for $1. The new use would now be residential apartments, 41 units planned. The town chose redevelopment over continued vacancy. Property return is now taxable, so that's also an important value to when they sold it. New Britain is talking about Thomas Aquinas High School. They're still working on theirs, but the new use they were talking about demolition, redevelopment to single-family housing. because it's an example of transitioning a long vacant school. Shows how the properties are often reused for housing. What are the advantages in selling a building? Other Connecticut municipalities have sold former buildings, mostly commonly for housing, private institution use, community redevelopment. They eliminate the long-term municipal costs and return properties to productive use. Across Connecticut, towns that sold former schools generally saw the end of annual maintenance costs, the avoidance of major capital repairs, the private reinvestment, the return on property of the tax base, the reuse as housing community space for private institutions. So that's what we're talking about for this property. And there is historical preservation. The ECC is on a National Historic District under the Lawton Historic Mills District and the Connecticut Registry of Historic Places. And what does that mean? Well, if the town decides that they want to sell the building, we will make sure we institute a clause for this, incentivize the owners to keep the designation. I can tell you as a side note, I've spoken to both the groups that want to buy. I think they're pretty much happy with having it stay looking as it is. They like the historic look of it. So what happens next? We'll ask for your questions, your concerns, talk about public input. We do value the public input. There's further financial and policy evaluation we have to do. No decisions can be made at this meeting. This is a public informational meeting only. This is to determine, in your mind, what you would like to do. We'd like to have community input. We think it's essential. The resident feedback is essentially the town evaluates options for the former ECC building. So your input will help inform and make an informed decision on making the next step available for the development or appropriate responsible municipal budget. So with that, we would ask for questions. If you wouldn't mind just making sure, so we have for the record, because I think this is something I'd like to do, is you'll get back to me in case you have a question, is just make sure that if you have the microphone, just give us your name. That helps us out. So at this point, based on my presentation,
so it's working. Okay. Yes, I appreciate the information that's been provided. It's been. What? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is John Von Olson. I live in Central Village. And I put together some notes on the ECC building. I'd like to just make sure everybody's on the same page on this. It was based primarily on the Bureau Veritas analysis that was done in 2023-2024 and budgetary demands from the Plainfield government. The groups moved out of the ECC building to be consolidated at Shepherd Hill campus. So there was a need because the budget was viewed as a little high or too high for the education budget. So the education people decided, well, we can save money by consolidating the schools. And the usage that was found in the ECC building for the elementary school people, as kids, was only 24%. So the building was underutilized for the elementary school. However, the other classes in middle school and high schools were pretty much normal usage. So all these administrative offices were used. So what was moved was the administrative offices, administrative assistants, the business office, K-12 curriculum management, facilities and management, student services, superintendent's office, the talent department, contracts and information, and technology and the transportation department. Plus the pre-K students, 4 classrooms, 2 shifts a day. This is all in the Veritas document, by the way. And the Plainfield Family Resource Center and Adult Education Program. These were all moved to Shepherd Hill. In order to do that, Shepherd Hill had to spend $250,000 to basically provide 4 rooms in some space so that these things could be moved there. So now the usage is pretty much set. So in other words, if we have a large increase in enrollment, we got to build a building. So the projected total enrollment is expected to decline to about 1,900. I think that's all in the analysis, and that's viewed as being pretty consistent for the next few years. So that's supposedly going stable for a while. So it makes, it makes sense to consolidate because if, the enrollment's going down and it's going to be stable, that makes sense. The current classroom space needs are met, but any further increases or reorganization will require more space. And building this space is considerably more expensive than using what is available. If you want to build a new building to the current standards, you're talking many millions of dollars. That's just the way it is. Thus, a comprehensive plan, I think, is mandatory to minimize the cost and community impact before selling and losing a valuable resource like the ECC. In other words, we got a plan. We don't really want to jump into it. I think the presentation here about what's involved in the cost of selling versus keeping it is well founded. It's well placed because these have to be determined, and we have to do an effective plan to make sure we got the right choice. It's also possible that the groups that moved out of the ECC, like the adult education and so forth, may not have been well served moving to Shepherd Hill. There may be better ways to do it, and so that could be looked at. The student classroom needs were well analyzed, I think, but that's not a real consideration for adult education as far as the size of classrooms. So anyway, the thing also I like to point out is the taxable value that's listed for this property is $2.38 million. That's the taxable. That's how it's taxed. And then that's usually 70% of market value, which makes the market value somewhere estimated at $3.4 million. That's just an estimate. It's nothing set in stone on that. The replacement cost for that building would be much, much higher, as we would expect. So, for a 27,000 square foot building here, you're looking at maybe 6 to 11 million, and maybe a little higher than that. Look at what happened in Putnam. I think they spent 20 million. So all the aspects of that building right now are very well established and really have good needs in place, or essentially usage in place for multiple educational and community use. So right now, that building is really set up well for that. And there are things that have been pointed out here that you're going to need to spend some money on to change that use. And if we want to keep it as a Plainfield building and reuse it, we're going to have to spend some money to determine how that's actually going to take place. And lastly, many in the community, I think, here recognize the historic significance. And once these buildings are sold or torn down, the community suffers. So the idea that, the designation might stay, or if you sell it off. If you sell it off to some other owner, you don't have much control of what's going to happen. You can have stuff, you can have some riders or something like that, but at the end of the day, you really don't have control of that. You basically it's going to go to another use. And keep in mind that we live in a socioeconomic system where costs are going to continue to grow. The inflation rate's roughly 2 to 3%, and that's viewed as normal. And if it goes low, there's a problem, and if it goes too high, there's a problem. So costs are going to go up, even if we sell the building. The education budget's going to increase, all the budgets are going to go up. That's what they do. So I just want to point out that, there's a lot here. There's really a lot of good information here about the cost of this building, and there's a lot going on that we need to determine. So I think a planned approach. We need to, grab all these things together and have a good amount of time spent to plan out exactly how we want to do this. And we got to do it quickly because you don't want to see a building just sit there and break. That gets expensive. So anyway, that was it.
Thank you, sir. When I jumped the gun a little bit, I want to make sure that I do a presentation by each of the groups that came here tonight. So if you want more time at the end, afterwards, absolutely. So what I do want to do, though, is go right into speaking on allowing the possible buyers to speak, and we can come back to that, if that's okay. Because when they speak, you might have some more questions or comments, so if we can hold off. And yeah. All right, so what I'd like to do, I would like to introduce one of the potential buyers for that, BJ. If you have an opportunity, you want to come to the microphone and you can speak. We have a microphone set up right over here.
Plainfield. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Digvijay Bansal. And I'm here to share our vision for revitalization of former school property in a way that benefits our town and its people. In this town, everyone knows me as a BJ. Because Digvijay is so big, it's not so long. I'm working in this town since 2008. I took over the first business at Oregon, the Getty gas station next to the Plainfield High School. And now the purpose of this project, our proposal is simple yet impactful. We plan to repurpose the closed school building into a modern apartment complex and utilize part of the land for the gas station, convenience store, or we may add more apartment building. This is just a development project. It's a community investment also. Why this matter? Revitalization and idle property. The school building has been sitting unused and without invention, it risks become an eyesore. By repurposing it, we preserve the character of the property while giving it new life and purpose. Meeting housing needs. The apartment complex will provide much needed housing options for families, young professionals, and seniors. This supports Plainfield growth and ensures that residents have quality, affordable places to live. I have multiple businesses in this town, and my employees always have a hard time to find an apartment for them to live. That's why we need more housing in this town. And this is going to boost the local economy. The gas station and convenience store will create jobs for local residents and generate tax revenue that can be reinvested in public services like schools, roads, and safety programs. Convenience for residents. Having a gas station and store nearby and more residential places would need to travel, is going to reduce the travel for the people for the Plainfield. It's about making life easier and more connected for our community. Commitment to safety and sustainability. We understand the importance of responsible development. Our project will comply with all zoning, environmental, and safety regulations. We are exploring energy efficient designs and landscaping to ensure the property remains attractive and environmental decision. I'm working in this town very long, since 2008. I occupied multiple businesses. Right now I'm working on a very big project at 338, 342 Prospect Street. I'm trying to bring there a big gas station with high-speed diesel, car wash, and big truck diesel and a small convenience store. I took that whole project very seriously, and I utilized the land efficiently and more efficiently. In that property, the previous owner who sold that property to me wanted to demolish the house in that property. I worked with the zoning architect and the engineering services, and I saved the house. Now the house is already there, and with the house, I'm putting the gas station in that property. The same thing I'm going to do with this property also. I'm going to add this current building into the apartment, and then we have a big lot of empty land, which I can either convert into the gas station or the convenience store, or I can put another building for the apartment that will provide more residential accommodation for the people. And this is just our project. It's Plainfield projects. We welcome feedback and want to work hand in hand with the community to make sure this development reflects your need and values. And this town, official people are always work with me. When I took over I will give you one example. When I took over the 7-Eleven store location at 65 East Main Street, where I put the Citgo gas station, the owner of that property was paying just for the 4 parking spot. The 7-Eleven was paying $800 rent to the owner of that property, and it was very big amount for me. 7-Eleven is a big company; they can pay whatever they want. Then I came to the town, I discussed with them that if I take that property, I have to pay $800. How I can work this out? The building inspector and zoning people came with me on the site and they figured out that the store is 1,500 square feet, I need 8 parking spots. They showed me I don't need those four parking spots. I can put all this, I can use the other space to put the parking spot, and then we can use the 4 spots for the front as a parking spot. That kind of help in this town, I don't get anywhere. I bought one property in Greensville, I don't want to criticize them. It's almost 5 years. I cannot put that building into the apartment. Still I'm working, and finally now I start getting the permit. If I bought that property somewhere in this Plainfield, I have built it. It's not going to give me that much hard time. In short, the proposal transforms an unusual property into a huge hub of housing, convenience and economic growth. It strengthens our town, creates opportunities and improves quality of life for residents. Thank you for considering this vision. I look forward to answer any question you have.
So, my name is Deborah Cox, I live in Worcester. So I understand you correctly that you own the property across from the Berkshire Bank on 12 Rock Road?
Yes, ma'am.
When will you be developing that?
It's yes, I'm at the final stage. All my plans and everything got approved by the wetland zoning and everyone. And I applied for the permit. Fire marshal already reviewed that, and zoning people also reviewed it. I have to do the soil test and all these things. I'm at almost at the final stage. We may start either in this month or next month.
All right, and do you also own the gas station at Oregon Four Corners?
No, I lease that business, and all these big gas companies, what they do, they told me that they subleased me that business when they can't find anyone in 2008. I put all my efficiency there, I increase the business, I bring so much stuff in the store, and it's very convenient for the people living around there. And when my lease got expired, I was paying them that small place 4,200 rent per month. They want 7,500, and they are to put a new bank. For that, they are asking me to pay them again 75,000 as a fee money. Then I refused and I quit from there. And I bought another building over there in the 57 Oregon Road. I moved my business from here to there.
Catherine Howard, Highland Street in Worcester. So in the ECC building, how many apartments do you figure you could fit in there?
As per the,
And one more
I
question.
just,
Do you have experience as a landlord? You didn't mention that.
yes, I do.
Okay.
And in this building, 21 apartments are very easy to build, but I see some spaces which I can reuse or change something. Maybe I can put 24 apartments in that building.
Okay. And may I ask how many bedrooms there would be?
That I cannot tell you right now because I have to give this drawing to my architect. They are going to work on it.
Okay.
And then they will decide how to do.
Okay. And would there be any recreation inside the apartments? Will it be like a, I don't know, like, is it like a condo or is it actually just apartments?
Those are going to be apartments.
Apartments. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just 1 minute, is it affordable housing or will this be market value?
Because the apartments I normally build, those are not the very luxurious apartments. They are going to be affordable kind of stuff, but I'm not getting any help from the town or something. The rent is going to be reasonable, but it's not going to be very high. Yeah, the market value of it. Yes.
Could you explain that? So affordable housing, what do you mean by that?
Affordable housing, if you get some help from the government, then you have to give the rent what they say to it.
Yep.
And I don't want to go in that. But normally, just like I'm building the 10 apartment in Greensville town building,
Yep.
my apartments are not very fancy or very luxurious kind of stuff. So my rent stay very low. And over there, I was planning my one-bedroom apartment about 550 square feet is going to be between 1,000 to 1,200.
Okay. And
And then you also want to add a gas station to that?
If I can, because it's a very big lot, and I can divide this and put the gas station or the convenience store in half of that, or I will put another building to make more apartments. I have not decided which way I have to.
Also possibly more apartments
Yes.
added on.
Yes.
How many more possibly added on if we're just?
That exactly I cannot tell. That's everything is going to be depend upon the architect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next group up, if you don't mind, Cooper Shaw. Give me a minute to swap out of my.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to plug this in, and then our team will get started on the presentation.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Parker. I'm an attorney out of Rocky Hill, the principal of Romano Parker and Associates, and I'm the attorney who's going to be working with the development group if they're selected for this project. They smartly had the lawyer go first, so we'll get all the boring stuff out of the way. But we do have Aaron, who's the architect, Krupa. We also have John, who's going to be the GC on the project, and I'll let each of them talk if they want a little bit about the project. But Aaron, if you want to go to that first summary slide. Basically, what this group is proposing, if selected for this project, is an adaptive reuse of the building. As the first selectman noted, it is in the Lawton Historic District, and they would want to play off of that and take advantage of that. That may make some applicability for tax credits or grants or other things as they work to both reuse the structure, but also apply for some assistance that may be available in the hopes that they do preserve that historic nature. To the gentleman who gave the first comment after the first presentation, part of my role in being part of this group, not only working with a lot of developers, I'm actually working on a project right now that has some pretty strict restrictions that was transferred from a municipality to a developer, and it's not out of the town's control. If there are restrictions that want to be placed, they can be very strict and very firm. Obviously, that's up to negotiation with the buyer, and I could talk about any specifics, but that's definitely something the town can consider, and our project certainly is looking to have a historic nature. 20 residential units, there is an affordability component, so a true affordability with an affordability plan, deed restrictions, a rubric for how different units would be rented and held, and which would go where, and it's a complex thing that a lot of towns are dealing with. My office has done a number of these, mostly in central Connecticut, but it's something that a lot of towns are dealing with, to have both market rate and affordable units within one structure, and to have some division of those and some deed restrictions and an affordability plan as part of that as well. And as I said at the outset, this would also be seeking to keep the historic nature of the building and that adaptive reuse, and that would maybe make this project eligible for grants and other things like that that might be able to help bring it along. So Erin's going to give you a walk through the building in a second, but we want to start with our developer and have her introduce herself to those who don't know her and talk a little bit about the vision for the plan, and then we can answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Eric, for the quick presentations and introducing yourself. My name is Krupa Shah. My husband and I, we have been part of Plainfield with my husband, Neil Shah, part of Plainfield since 2011. We came to the Northeast for a better family environment and for family growth. We bought a store here right down the street, which is a Place Stop Spirit Shop, as many of us might recognize us from there, as being some of you are our customers, clientele, or some of you are not, but anytime you guys are welcome. As we have developed ourselves into this northeast part of Connecticut, we have continued to show our growth, and not only the growth, but we have continued to build within the community. We progressed on our daily lives along with the community people, and we have continued to purchase Putnam Spirits and continue to build within the community with purchasing Montana Nights and putting Bounce house play as well next to it. So we have quite a experience in all the different backgrounds as well, but along with the for the property management for the landlord, we also have about two-door manor estates in Meriden, which we solely run ourselves along with our project managers. But anything that we put on, we take on our full responsibility, pride, and ownership in it, and not just hand it out to some third company where everybody is just a number and an X number. You call 1-800 number and figure it out on your own. Certainly, you can reach out to us anytime, and if you Google on any of our websites, it's not hard to find us, and you can personally reach out to us anytime too. So we are not far away from here, and I don't want to sound redundant, but Aaron here will be explaining to everyone and give us our vision of what we would like to see in Plainfield, along with the other projects that we have continued to do and have successfully achieved the same affordability and a growth in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kripa and Eric. And just so everyone knows, on the far left there is a selected projects list. It's obviously very tiny. I'm happy to provide anyone with the presentation. I'll also send it to them. Yes, some of them include. Okay. Kripa, do you want to read through yours very briefly?
Some of the projects that we have experience with, and we are currently the owner of it for quite a few years. The first one we acquired about 3 years ago, which is a 10-apartment building in Bristol. It's an Upson LLC. Another one we took over just recently in Putnam, which is a 2 multi-family unit in Putnam, Connecticut. Obviously Montana Nights, which is our brand new entertainment requirement, which is run and maintained by us. Pit Stop Spirit Shop at 712 right down the street. Putnam Spirits on 249 next to Price Chopper, 249 Kennedy Drive, and we are under the constructions for the trampoline and the fun park in Putnam, right next to the Montana Nights, and our more than 20 units apartment in Meriden, which is a two-door manor estates, which we also run and have our own ownership without handing it out to a third company to manage, where community comes to us first for any objections or any other reasoning.
Thank you. So my name is Erin Butler. As mentioned, I'm the architect on this project, working with Krupa and her team. I work for Commercial Development Services Group. We're a general contractor, design and build company out of Stafford Springs, Connecticut. It is a family-run company. I will say that my father is the GC, so I've learned from the best. We've been blessed to be working with Krupa on multiple projects. For example, the one that just said it was up and coming, the trampoline park, we're actually currently working on with her. So we have an outstanding relationship. As you'll note on the screen, our portfolio expands beyond just entertainment, residential. We work on hospitality, retail, restaurant, medical, automotive, fitness, and residential, and we do have many returning clients. The company has been in business for a very long time, and we're so blessed to really focus on those client relationships rather than just finish the project, move on. We've worked on many different projects with the same clients. I am a licensed architect for 10 plus years. I have previously worked in San Francisco, New York, came back to Connecticut to work in the family business, and it has been great. I have experience in different size projects, roughly from 2,000 square foot medical offices up to 400,000 square foot workplaces at a previous company for top 10 brands, as you can imagine, Apple, Google, all the sorts. Very briefly, there's an extensive list of projects, but we have done buildings in Avon, we have worked with Advanced Orthopedic New England, Blueback Dental, we worked in hotels, we have multiple hotels specifically that we worked with in Massachusetts, Cardio Express, Dudley Town Brewing, I'm just going through some of these, Hampton Inn and Suites, MD Renewal in Avon, Rough and Tumble, Square Peg, and of course Montana Nights that we previously talked about. Okay, so that's kind of the summary of who we are, and now moving into some visuals of what we're proposing. Again, this is all very schematic, nothing is approved. We also would love to contribute to the community, and Mr. Patel, I do agree that there's a shortage for housing, so this is our proposal to redevelop this very vacant building. Actually, I'm going to go back a couple slides. So our focus on maintaining the existing schoolhouse, I know that the historic nature of the building is very critical. We are planning on essentially just future-proofing the building. So the exterior is really in great shape beyond just some aesthetic adjustments, such as the repointing the brick, making sure that it's structurally sound, redoing the roof. But the bones of the structure is amazing compared to some other historic buildings around the area. We are really going to be focusing on developing the site for not just the tenants of what we are currently calling the schoolhouse flats, but also for the surrounding neighborhood, for the public, for all of you. And one item that was mentioned is that this building is already historically designated. It's part of the historic neighborhood. And we're going to be proceeding to move forward to get some tax credits. That's an incentive for us as designers and developers to make sure that we maintain the historical nature and the beauty of the existing buildings. Part of our strategy for moving forward with that is to really reinvest in the building and the site rather than just purely for profits. So let me go through some visuals for you. So essentially what we're planning on doing is modernizing the building. As you can see, previously there is some nice white trim, beautiful white windows, the brick stands out. All of that we're planning on maintaining, except when we replace the roof, we plan to provide more of a dark feature to really allow the historic brick to pop out. And again, these are all just high-level ideas. Just cleaning up the building as is. I'm happy to go through these more in depth, but essentially it's just modernizing the building, the roof up, and that's it, keeping it as is. This is the proposed site plan as it currently exists. So as you can see, Norwich Road Route 12 is off to the right and Green Avenue to the left. Some of the amenities that we're proposing include utilizing some of the land for solar panels to give back to the building, and even depending on the size, could contribute to Plainfield itself. We also are toying with some outdoor kitchen space, some community gardens, elevated grass area where the current playground sits, adding some new landscaping. Another feature that we really wanted to make sure that the public was able to utilize is the enclosed dog park and a nice fire pit. So trying to make sure that the site isn't just for the tenants, but that it's an area that the community can gather. There's also a potential to expand the green space. Obviously, green space in general is a lovely thing to have around, and if you all are able to use and would like to use the space, if we don't need as much parking as possible, there's always room for expansion. So that's something that we would look for in the future. Again, this is all high level and proposed. We have worked through the very, very preliminary floor plans for the 3 stories. We're proposing 20 residential units, 15 one-bedrooms, and 5 two-bedrooms. The idea here is sorry, I lost the word I was going to say. Okay, let me just dive into the floor plans. So as you know, the building is already fully accessible due to its previous use. And so we are just looking at what the classrooms currently were, how we can divide that into additional housing for both families, solo individuals, and yeah, just develop the building into something that can be a home for many people. This is an example of some of the finishes that we're considering. For example, this is the 2-bedroom unit. Privacy on both sides of the bedrooms, really using the existing windows to help us decide what rooms are where, and just really making sure that it's a luxe space, but not too modern in the sense that it just feels weird and stiffy. This is an example of a 1-bed, and again, these are pulled from Secretary of the Interior typical layouts, and our typical floor plan units are anywhere between 650 and 1,000 square feet. We wanted to make sure that we provide the tenants some amenities as well, so we're proposing some bike storage, secure mail and package rooms, and additional storage. And this is the idea behind this is to use those awkward unutilized spaces that were either previously storage or the abundance of restrooms that are in this building that were previously required for the classrooms, and be able to make sure that that's rentable square footage. For the appliances and finishes, we really want to take note of what the previous use of this building was, which was a schoolhouse. So as you can see, I was thinking about what does a grammar school feel like? I don't know the exact finishes for what this building was, but taking note from lined paper in the tile to a checkered floor in a hallway, just fun little nods to the history of the building. We're also proposing in-unit washer and dryer, and these units, as Eric had mentioned, are going to be both, there's going to be a mix of affordability as well as marketplace, or market price, not marketplace. And that is it. So again, this is very preliminary. This is the first pass, but we wanted to create some visuals so that you all can see the potential of this building, and we're looking forward to any feedback. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. This would be the good time for anybody who has a comment or a question or concerns to bring forth. I just want to mention a few things beforehand. Whether we look to sell or keep it, if we were to sell, we still have to go through any of the plans that you would put forth to the planning zone. So everything has to go to the planning zone to get approved. The other thing for affordable housing, I believe there's a requirement for at least, as a state of Connecticut, for 10%. Correct. Yep. Yeah. So out of that, we're looking for 2 units to be, and that has to go to the planning zone as well. So.
Correct. We also would have to go in front of the historic committee to make sure that everything is within the requirements for both Plainfield and also for the to maintain the historic nature for the state and federal approval.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. Again, this would be a good time for anybody in the audience to have a question or a comment to speak up, ask a question of either of the groups or the town. This is it.
Hi, Lois DuPoint, 942 Norwich Road in Plainfield. I think your plans are beautiful.
Thank you.
My questions are actually for the selectmen. The building itself was paid for with repairs by grants from the state. Is there a term limit or penalty if we use it for something else?
It's already been paid back. There are no penalties at this time. Yep.
Secondly, if we do move the town hall into there and the rec department here in the senior center, what do we do with the old building?
That's a good question. That's all the things we have to determine what to do with.
Okay. And then my last question is, I read somewhere recently that there's going to be coming here from
Transplants?
No. Alternative education. They're going to have alternative education here in Plainfield.
The
magnet school.
Magnet
yes.
school. That would be a question, obviously, for the superintendent, but that was his thought.
All right. And if they do bring that here, would this building be a good fit for that?
Exactly.
You have a member of the couple members of the Board of Education. I don't want to speak for you, but
It's planned to be attached to the high school so that they don't have an
Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't mention where it would go.
yeah, it would be the high school. I think they were looking for additions onto the high school at that point.
Yeah, it would be kind of based, if you're familiar with the high school at all, down past the music wing, there's that hallway. It's primarily art classes, but there's space where we can move classes around, and the idea is more so that wing, and then possibly build a little bit off with grants and stuff.
Great. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen Wilson. Has there been a formal evaluation and appraisal of this building done, and where would one find that?
Again,
Has there been an official appraisal done of this building?
Yes.
By a company?
Yes.
And where would one get that?
Well, we did share that information with you January 23rd of last year, but it's also online. If you go to the town website, up in that top corner for the search, just type in ECC. All of that information is right there. There's a booklet for that online.
Okay. Also, if the building is appraised at a higher value, why are we selling it for 1.1?
You put the market value out there and ask for it, and you see what you get. Same thing if you're selling your house, same thing. It's an appraisal that was done at the time we were thinking about selling it and having a realtor market it.
So these are the two appraisals that you ended up with?
The one appraisal was, they appraised it at 1.9.
Yeah, there's three actually, but these are the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott Charlie Booster. So some of the other things that are not listed in here is, and I'm glad the magnet school got brought up, because talking to a different Board of Ed member, we're talking millions of dollars for the renovations. We're talking, they're going to need $9 million to complete all the HVAC and all their 5-year capital plan. Is the schools is looking at doing something like that to fix all the schools. And then you want 2.8 if you keep this in the town. When does the taxpayer ever get a break in this town? We brought in businesses, and all our taxes do is keep rising and rising and rising. And this is just going to add to our rising taxes if we keep it. So those are the things we have to keep in mind. And just for both developers, would veterans be, I guess, given preference? Would there be any housing where some of the apartments would be, the veterans would have a preference over in getting the apartment?
Krupa, do you have any thoughts?
I can speak for our team. Absolutely. We always try to work with any necessities that is needed in the town, so that absolutely can be done.
Thank you, Kevin, for the PowerPoints. Those were really helpful to get the information out. And I know Jenny Katsukevich and I met with you February of last year, and we had provided quite a few different scenarios that had been proposed, and we acknowledged that not all of them were going to be viable, and we had a lot of questions. And I also, we included an Excel with all of the costs and the expenses and also the revenue that these brought in, and we were looking for some numbers like, if we were to move one, like a town hall to DCC or whatever it was, and we weren't able to get those numbers, I was expecting this deck to be a little bit more neutral in like providing just the data of like, here's what this option would cost, here's what this option would cost. I think that would be, like, no matter what the presentation, both presentations were great, and thank you so much for contributing to our town. I love everything about that. But I was hoping for a little bit less bias of a presentation, including, I don't know why we're putting this as a 9.08% mill increase. When have we ever like put the full cost onto the town in 1 year? Like I'm confused. Like even if we bonded it out, or we had a grant, or what, or even if we just used it from the fund balance, which is up to everyone else what we do with that. But like I'm just concerned that you're saying you're scaring people with a 9% mill increase and $340 in tax increase, and that's not what would happen. That's absolutely not what would happen. And so to say something like that, and then to have you say like there's a $9 million in HVAC capital improvement over the next 10 years, that's actually going to have to happen anyway. And so I'm confused as to why we're fear-mongering all of these numbers and not just being given option A, option B, option C, and then allowing us to make a decision. Because here's the thing, I think we could use more apartments that are middle ground, affordable, like all by the book, everything like that. This is a complex thing, and I give you all the credit in the world for attempting to show this. But this is obvious that you want to sell this, which is fine, but I'd like to see both sides. And so if we could get just a little bit more information on the other options, that would be great, because I think that this is a really complicated matter, and you went through all of the why it's not a good idea to keep it, but we never saw why it would be a good idea to keep it. Thank you. Oh, Sam Darendal, who's up?
John Olson, Central Village again. Along with that, I guess, I think one of the things that's been tried to be done here is to show some of the costs that are going to be incurred if you want to keep the building. And one of the other things that we now know is we're going to have a strategic plan to evaluate that in much more detail. Because one of the things, the other questions I have about this is, based on what knowledge I have about Plainfield is not a growing community. Okay, Plainfield is pretty much plateaued. The student enrollment is decreasing, and the population is slowly decreasing. It's not growing a lot. We have some new businesses coming in, but these businesses don't hire a lot of people. Warehouses are not going to hire a lot of people, and so forth. So it's all part of the plan. It's all part of what we need to look at in terms of, what's the next 10 years look like for need for housing? What's the next 10 years look like for education? What can the town really afford? And I think, to your point, there's a lot of scary numbers out there, but I think what we're going to be doing with this strategic plan is looking at this in a more, high view, to take in all that we can to determine, okay, what's the best course of action that gives the community what they need, as well as not, saddle us with impossible costs.
Sean Peterson. I think also we're lacking some information. I'd like to see what the next 10 to 20 years look like in this building. Is this building adequate? Is this building going to survive? Is this going to fit our needs? Are we better off using that building and investing money into that building or this building? What's the story with recreation for the next 10 to 20 years? Is that building adequate? Is that going to need major work? We have to do an evaluation of these buildings before we start selling assets. Let's figure out where we stand before we just start selling off properties. Do the evaluations, figure out where we stand, and then we'll make a decision. A professional evaluation.
Did it turn red?
Yeah.
Yeah. helps for the video.
Helps me.
It does help for the video.
Helps this deaf man.
So Naomi Smith, Plainfield. So I have a couple questions and more concerns. Presentations were awesome. My thing is that we have just formulated a capital strategic planning committee, and at one of the last Board of Selectmen meetings, it was discussions that this is one of the buildings that is supposed to come to that committee for discussion on what the town may or may not be able to do. So I think this is preemptive. I was also concerned that I seen on Monday night's agenda that it's going to be possibly passed to the Board of Finance for sale before the capital strategics even met. So I don't feel the public's had enough time for input. I also don't feel that that's fair to the people who are joining the committee with the understanding we were supposed to be reviewing this building. I think it's just too preemptive. The other thing is did we look into other options? So this is just one option of sale, which was also presented multiple times for the cell tower. But when the people said no, we got a better lease agreement that's also now going to help our emergency services. So we need time, Plainfield needs time to review this. That's my request. And then maybe it will be for sale.
Hi, Jenny Kipsikevich. I wish I could have followed Sam because Sam and I did work together, and I just want to highlight that we are approaching the year marker when several members of the community, and not just myself and Sam, there was over 25 people who participated in developing a document about this topic. So this is not new for us. We've heard about it before, and we brought up concerns then. And I just want to highlight a couple things that I appreciate people who want to invest in our community. I think that's wonderful. I concur that the presentation from you, Mr. Cunningham, did feel like you were favoring a sale of this building, when you have heard and you are requesting town feedback that has been previously given. So I want to highlight that almost 12 months ago, we asked to have a survey of all town assets to determine whether their current uses and future uses were going to meet the needs of the town. Just like the school did to determine if we were fitting our buildings appropriately or not, they made their decision based on that formal, professional survey. And that's what we asked for almost 12 months ago, so that we can sit here and say, yes, let's sell this building, or no, it has a potential purpose for our town. Thank you, Erin, for giving me my next content. But I want to highlight two things that Erin said about the building in her own words. She said, it has great bones, and it is already compliant. So we're talking about an asset that people are recognizing, to developers in this room, who want to use it. I just want to make sure that for the residents of the town, that we have exhausted our options as a community.
Any more?
Hi, my name is Beth Anderson. I live at 49 Daggett Street in Moosup. I run Mission Moosup out of Moosup, and I'm also the Active Recreation and Senior Center Director. I have many thoughts on this, both personal as a taxpayer. I see a lot of what has happened over the years with historic buildings. We hold on to, we can use it for something. Surveys are done, and these buildings sit and sit until they're demolished. I am one for definitely taking time to look at all aspects, all options. You should have a well-rounded knowledge and view of those choices that there are. But we also need to be very wary of the time we spend. Because the time we spend, that building will deteriorate and continue to cost to keep up. Those are costs the town is already dealing with our budgets not being able to handle. In addition to that, from a professional perspective, my department sees a lot between families, our seniors, the needs of those people. I will be the first one to tell you we have outgrown our center. Can we manage there for years with some upgrades? Absolutely. And I would very strongly encourage the public to think about, if you're planning on moving, whoever, whether it's town hall, whether it's recreation, senior center, that you're not just moving to move. You need to look at the space, make sure that it is viable for the population that will be using it. Looking at the town hall for a possible site of recreation, are there pros? Yes. The pool is downstairs. That would make my life exponentially easier. Okay? Is there a large park right across the parking lot? Yes. Again, yes. Music and park, much easier for me. However, there are downsides to this building as well. I would not have full flexibility or ownership of the auditorium if it's being used for town items. That means no more line dancing 3 days a week, consistently throughout the year, one of our biggest classes, biggest revenue bringers. We would have to give it up randomly for emergency meetings or things like that, which would cause haywire for our programming. This building is not compliant for those with disabilities going from downstairs to upstairs. You are now looking at an elevator cost because you cannot have a senior center running on 2 levels without an elevator. These are all things to have to keep in mind if you're looking at moving buildings with these populations. So, I am not neither for nor against. As a taxpayer personally, I see a lot of value in moving this for sale because it is an older building that is going to require maintenance and more as the older it gets. Rec Center building is newer. It may be small, but it is a newer building. So you're looking at moving a newer building and an older building to an even older building and an old building. So just kind of keeping those things in mind as we go through this process, but also trying not to drag this process out so long that we see another building demolished, or when we finally decide to sell, the buyers are gone. Because that is also a very realistic thing. So that is all my comments is. And the only other ask I have as the director is that instead of people trying to guess what our needs are or try to tell us what our needs are, to please come and ask, because I am more than happy to speak with anyone. I am the one talking with the seniors every day. My team is talking with the families every day. We also know what the community needs are on a much broader scale. So I just ask for that respect also to keep us included. Beth Anderson. So that's it.
Let me test. It's still working. I do want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. There's also availability to follow up with questions and comments. The Board of Selectmen will be talking about this subject on Monday. We'll look to see what we can do to move forward. We do appreciate everybody coming out, number one. We also appreciate the developers coming out as well. If you have questions or follow-ups, we can see if we can get some information for you to contact these people that came tonight. And again, I want to thank you for being here. Get one more?
Yeah, real quick. A couple times during your presentation, because in the ones where you were showing that the sales brought in tax revenue because it's back in the tax roll, you queued up a few times on tax credits. So would the tax credits be limiting the tax roll and the amount of money that we would get as back to the town in credits? And then is that the tax credits you're looking at as a tax rate to the town?
I believe they're separate. So we've been working with a consultant who does this exclusively. We're actually working with them on another project similar to this one in Wethersfield. And our understanding is that there's the historic district, which this contributes to, but then there's also the building itself. So the tax credits, the incentive for our group would be the building itself. And that would go, yes, that would be back for the site improvements. Correct, I can't talk about town.
So the assessed value of the property, we wouldn't be giving tax breaks for that?
No, this is when they go for an application for grant monies. That's the credits they're looking at.
Is it also a tax credit incentive by the state for affordable housing coming into the town? Is the state offering
There are
tax
some
incentives
offsets
for that?
there as well, but that goes through the developer.
I couldn't hear you.
Your question was, are there tax breaks as far as the state of Connecticut for affordable housing?
Right.
That is something with the applications for this, they go through the owners of the building for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All good questions and good comments. I do appreciate your time here tonight. I appreciate the developers coming out. We'll see if we can get contact information for you, so if anybody wants to do follow-up questions, we'll see if we can possibly get a copy of your presentation, and we can put it up online for you as well. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.